Well, it's not often that the biggest band in the world is also one of the most innovative, but such is the case with U2, a four-piece act from Dublin, Ireland, who've seemingly reinvented themselves with each of their sensational albums, taking multiple risks at every possible opportunity. U2 launched their latest album, Pop, in a New York Kmart store in February this year, and 2 months later embarked on their Pop Mart World Tour, which will see them playing shows here in Australia in February next year. Over the next hour, we join Bono, Larry, Adam and The Edge as we go on the road, behind the scenes and back to the beginning as we spend a year in pop.
I think it's time to come out and say that I had one of the worst haircuts in the 80s. That launched 1 million second division soccer players. When I look back at the footage, I just think, what a spa. But the truth of it, if I'm really being honest, I thought I looked like David Bowie.
The first time the band flicked Pop Mart's on switch in Las Vegas, scores of eyewitnesses across the Nevada desert were convinced they were witnessing extraterrestrial activity. The Pop Mart inventory includes the biggest video screen in the world, a huge golden arch, one enormous cocktail stick topped with an olive, plastic of course, and one engine-powered lemon come mirror ball.
Pop music! Pop music! Pop music!
Transporting the tour requires 75 semi-trailers, 16 buses and one Boeing 727. Oh, and there's the 250 tour employees to think about, including, and this is true, a small army of Belgians wielding hairdryers who abseil up and down the screen when it gets wet. When the four members of U2 first got together in 1976, there wasn't much in the way of computer-generated imagery for them to play around with. This was a band who was in possession of no more than, as they like to see it, 3 chords and the truth.
From the back to the sides, ladies and gentlemen, I will I was on the outside when you say you need of me. I was looking at myself, I was blind, could not see. Yeah.
Oh, we were only kids, do you know what I mean? We really were only kids. We made our first record, I think we were 18, 19, so we didn't know what was going on. What actually I think pushed us towards taking it more seriously was the chemistry of the band, which was sort of there from day one.
Buzzing with youthful energy, U2's early performances found Bono going to extraordinary lengths to capture his audience's attention. Something of a pioneer in the perilous act of stage diving, crowds would watch on in disbelief. The fact that Bono insisted on clambering up every available structure wasn't really the problem. It was just that sometimes he'd jump off.
But when you're 16 years old, you think you can take on the whole world, don't you? Sometimes you're right.
Their manager back then was Paul McGuinness. Significantly, he's still their manager today.
I have extreme confidence in their instincts. I mean, my instinct is to trust theirs.
And so the job now was to find a record company who trusted the manager's instincts. It didn't prove to be the easiest of tasks, but the long search ended at the door of Island Records.
I'd love to say that Island were one of 6 labels that bid for U2. In fact, they were the only one. We were very fortunate, I think. I mean, they treated us with considerable respect, particularly since we were making it up as we went along.
I bought them so as I could look like you!
Their first two albums, Boy and October, were both well received, even if they didn't break any sales records. But their almost constant touring began to pay dividends. With the War album, U2 sold 7 million records worldwide.
God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land.
With the arrival of producer Brian Eno on The Unforgettable Fire, U2's music became more expansive, more cinematic. At the same time, the band was scaling new heights of social awareness.
If I could, you know I would. If I could, I would let it go.
It was a record maybe.
Being pretentious.
Quite honestly, I think the failure of Rattle and Hum is more a business failure than a creative failure. I think we didn't appreciate how annoyed people would get when they were hit over the head with the sort of marketing campaign that's associated with a major studio movie.
Like, we were just pushing and pushing and pushing too hard. It was released, you know, in whatever it was, 1,000 cinemas around America with a huge big hype. And by the way, Phil wasn't responsible for that, or Paramount Pictures. That was us. We wanted that.
We got the balance wrong, and we thought that if we got the elements of the campaign right, they wouldn't mind how big it was and how frequently they were exposed to it. In fact, it annoyed the hell out of them, and I'm not surprised in retrospect. It was a fuck-up.
On stage in Dublin on New Year's Eve 1989, Bono made a public hint about the group's future that led some to believe that the group was about to split up.
This is just the end of something for you two. It's no big deal, just we have to go away and just dream it all up again.
My pleasure. It was a place where everything was legal.
We will rock you.
Zoo TV was really us completely losing the run of ourselves, letting our imaginations run riot.
We will rock you.
And anyone else's imagination that we could get our hands on. They had the vision, but we had the television.
We're stealing from the thieves.
With their album Achtung Baby, U2 successfully reinvented themselves, and with the Zoo TV tour, they set about reinventing the whole live rock experience.
One of the things about rock and roll stars is that they're bigger than life, they're bigger than the audience, they're almost intimidating. Isn't that off-putting? Doesn't that kill intimacy, though?
It does. Yeah, absolutely. But you look great.
This was rock and roll on a wire-guided collision course with satellite television. If it wasn't live, it didn't happen. And if you couldn't say it in a soundbite, it wasn't worthwhile.
Put your hand against the tree.
There are many, many levels to Zoo TV. This is the lowest. This is...
Soon the network of scattered ideas within Zoo TV began to expand and take on different forms. At points, even U2 seemed to be having trouble getting their heads around what they created.
I don't know what Zoo TV is all about, so it must be art.
More amazing still, U2 had created a tour which was chewing up millions of dollars faster than the ticket money rolling in. The monumental costs in staging Zoo TV meant the tour was barely breaking even, but it looked like they were loving every minute of it.
You know, it's an extraordinary thing to be on in front of 50,000 people and have your mind blown. And that's what Zoo TV did to me every night. You know, just completely turned me over.
That mixture of European decadence
I mean, I couldn't believe we were getting away with it.
and the Las Vegas trash.
I couldn't believe we could afford it.
This is what we want.
The best thing that I could ever hear from a member of the audience at Zoo TV, as all these images came piling in, was, "It's too much. This is, you have to slow it down. I can't take it all in."
Yeah, they're coming to a rock and roll gig and watching television. I think that, I mean, what more can you ask for?
You haven't come all the way out here to watch TV now, have ya?
think one of the great things about Zoo TV, the show, was that anything was possible. There were nights when we would be able to beam a signal into people's homes and give them a private concert, and other nights where, you know, Sarajevo could beam in a report of what had happened there that day.
We had all these mad ideas, you know, but it was a grand madness. Stealing from the thieves, you know, that was one of the ideas, that basically Zoo TV was just grand larceny. When they started stealing it back, it was time to stop.
157 concerts and 4 continents later, U2 played the final emotionally charged Zoo TV gig in Tokyo. Then they picked up the remote and pressed the off button. After the chaos that Zoo TV had become, U2 enjoyed a period of just putting their feet up. But it wasn't time spent idle. Recording together for the first time as a separate unit from the group, Larry and Adam put together a bass-heavy reworking of the theme from Mission Impossible. It went on to become a huge club and chart hit for U2's rhythm section.
Had to look at the next record.
That music.
That's what I want to find out. We have to get help.
Not sure I care to find out what it is.
Something's...
Most groups just occupy like one tone, you know, or one note. You know, maybe 2 colors, like they have their fast song and they have their slow song. But I think in U2, we want there to be, you know, all the colors and, you know, a lot of feelings and, yeah, all the colors and all the sizes.
The album was taking much longer to complete than expected. As deadlines were forced back again and again, Island Records began to get distinctly twitchy.
I think the truth of it is that whenever we go in to make a record, we always go in to make the same record. It's just every time it comes out completely differently. I would love to be able to sit down and write tunes like we wrote on the Boy album, but I've forgotten how.
The album released in March 1997 was called, quite simply, Pop.
Pop. Hi. To make or cause a small explosive sound. Loads of things like poodle, pontiff, pong.
The humor is the key.
The band had become fascinated with the work of pop artists Roy Lichtenstein and Andy Warhol. And before you could say Jackson Pollock, they turned his famous images into head-spinning animations.
I don't think art has really any, boundaries.
Pop means a certain flavor.
A non-alcoholic fizzy drink.
In the face of the black heroin-chic world of alternative rock, U2 wanted to paint with bright primary colors. And just like the pop artists before them, the band were keen to find the incredible in the everyday.
Well, I've been thinking about this a lot.
Taking art off a pedestal and giving it back to the people.
And I've got absolutely no idea.
But by calling the album Pop, U2 were also throwing people off the scent. Underneath their shiny exterior, the songs on Pop bubbled with dark thoughts and emotions.
Art shouldn't be scary. Art should be inviting.
Music's just a great thing. You would really rather be able to do music than anything else, but I'm not going to quit my day job, exactly.
Their infatuation with the surface saw the band attracted to the most colourful of environments. This time, they slid down to Miami.
We didn't go to Cuba because the American government decided that if you do go to Cuba, you may not be able to get back into America. We went to the next best thing. Went to Miami.
Car chase.
U2 soaked up more than the sun in Florida. They soaked up the style. After the fashion crimes of their earlier days, the band had slowly learned how to present themselves.
My mammy.
Pop has already sold over 5 million copies, but the question within the band is always, who cares how many it sells? Is it any good?
It's the best record that we could possibly have made. And I feel
Any U2 show, it's not the coloured lights and the fancy images. They're a lot of fun, and they probably make sense of being in a stadium. But I like to think that, really people are coming along to hear the songs, first and foremost.
My ambition for it would be to make it as mind-blowing for the people who come as it will be for me, because it has to be that for me every night, and for us. I think everyone would feel the same way about that.
In the 80s, the public image of U2 was of 4 over-earnest young men. People even took their jokes seriously. Now in the 90s, after the tongue-in-cheek twists of Zoo TV, perhaps every move they make is seen as being ironic. But Pop Mart is possibly where U2's flip 90s attitude meets their old-style sincerity. They're still tackling the taboo subject matter of Sunday Bloody Sunday, but this time it's more subtle, more understated, more personal.
You can't grab it. You can hold it, control it, no. You can't bag You compose, but you can't attack that. Circulate, regulate, oh no, you cannot conduct that. You know you're chewing bubble gum. You know what that is, but you still want some. You just can't get enough of that love, that double stuff.